Chrono Glitch, Timelines Entwined. Chapter 6, Confrontation. Leah's confrontation with Calvin was a mix of relief and tension. She found him on the outskirts of a futuristic city, staring blankly at the gadget in his hand. He looked exhausted and defeated, unlike the enthusiastic assistant she remembered. Calvin was stunned to see Leah. His initial joy at finding her quickly turned to confusion and guilt as he realized the gravity of his actions and their consequences. Leah explained how his reckless jumps had caused severe fractures in the timelines, threatening the very fabric of the multiverse. Calvin was devastated. He never intended harm. His only goal was to find Leah and bring her back. But his lack of understanding of the device and his desperation had blinded him to the potential consequences. "You can't gamble with time, Calvin," Leah said sternly, fighting back a surge of anger and disappointment. "You should have known better." Calvin could only nod, the weight of his mistakes pressing heavily on him. Accepting full responsibility, he agreed to help Leah fix the damage. Leah knew there was no time to dwell on their failed experiment or Calvin's reckless actions. A greater crisis awaited. The fracture was expanding, its pull intensifying, and they had to act quickly to prevent a timeline collapse. Leah explained the dire situation to Calvin, stressing the critical role he must play in fixing the damage. She needed his help to navigate the fracture safely and deploy a stabilization device, a piece of chrononaut technology designed to mend timeline fractures. The task was dangerous, requiring precision and teamwork. The fate of the multiverse depended on their success. Embarking boldly and resolutely on their mission, Leah and Calvin braced themselves as they plunged into the swirling chaos of the fracture. The scene was overwhelming. A whirlwind of colliding realities, each with its own physical laws and temporal flows, forming a disorienting vortex of potential pasts and futures. Navigating the fracture required unprecedented focus and precision. With Calvin's steadfast support, Leah used the device's sophisticated sensors to discern a path through the tumultuous landscape. As they advanced, the world around them fluctuated wildly, with timelines folding, distorting, and reconstituting in a dizzying dance of possibility and chaos. Amidst a rare pocket of stability, Leah seized the moment to activate their stabilization device. It hummed to life, resonating with controlled energy. A beam of coherent light emanated from it, slicing through the disorder with surgical precision. This beam acted like a beacon, identifying and knitting together the fragmented strands of time. As the device worked, the effect was mesmerizing. It was as if they were witnessing the restoration of a once beautiful tapestry, long frayed by the ravages of time and neglect. The beam meticulously realigned and reconnected the severed threads of timelines, restoring coherence where there had been none. Watching the fractured realities gradually mend, Leah felt a profound sense of accomplishment, mixed with hope, as they were not just mere witnesses to the healing of time, but active participants in its salvation. The fracture, however, refused to yield quietly. In a desperate display of its immense power, it surged forth like a tempest, releasing a torrent of raw temporal energy that threatened to overwhelm everything in its path. Leah and Calvin braced themselves, their bodies tensed against the overwhelming force, as the very fabric of time seemed to unravel around them. They were caught in the tumultuous clash of 1,000 conflicting realities, each vying for dominance in the chaotic void. The maelstrom of energy grew more intense, and in a heart-stopping moment, a particularly violent surge struck with the force of an unseen behemoth. Calvin, caught off guard by the fracture's power, was swept away like a leaf in a storm. Leah reached out, her fingers grazing the air where he had been moments before, her voice cutting through the chaos as she cried out his name. But it was too late. He had vanished into the swirling vortex of the fracture, pulled into the depths of its core. A profound sense of loss engulfed Leah as she watched helplessly where Calvin had disappeared. Waves of grief and disbelief threatened to pull her down, but the urgency of their mission pressed heavily upon her shoulders. There was no time to surrender to her sorrow. Gathering every shred of unwavering determination and courage she possessed, Leah steeled herself against the pain. She knew that the only way to honor Calvin's sacrifice and potentially bring him back was to forge ahead and complete their urgent mission. With renewed resolve, Leah focused intently on the task at hand, channeling her grief into a fierce resolve to stabilize the fracture and restore order to the timelines. The fate of countless realities hung in the balance, and she was their last hope. As she advanced towards the heart of the fracture, Leah prepared to confront whatever challenges lay ahead, driven by the memory of Calvin's bravery and the critical importance of their mission. The battle to mend the shattered timelines was far from over, and Leah was ready to face it head-on. With a final burst of raw energy, the stabilization device finished its crucial work. The chaos around Leah subsided, the swirling vortex of the fracture slowly calming down into a gentle ripple before finally fading away. It was done. The fracture was stabilized. Alone and heartbroken, Leah returned to the chrononauts, carrying the weight of victory and loss. The multiverse was safe, but at a heavy cost. Calvin was gone, lost to the timelines, a casualty of their reckless foray into time travel. His loss was a harsh reminder of the dangers they faced as they dared to manipulate the very fabric of reality.